Good morning. So, member of the week. Awesome. It's always lovely to be chosen for something. So, I am new to the Peaks community. I've only been in here for a month, not even quite a month, I don't think, and I've had a holiday in that time. So, I thought I'd start off my Takeover Thursday by just talking a little bit about me. um, as I say, I know a few of you in the group anyway, but I haven't connected with anyone. So I thought I'd start the day by just talking a little bit about me and what I do and how I got into the work that I'm doing. As many coaches and therapists, certainly the ones I meet, they've got a natural lead into the work that they do through their own personal experiences, and I'm no different. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Hayley Perkins, the food therapist. I have been a therapist now for almost 20 years. It's quite scary when I think about that, really. I ditched my corporate career back in 2004 following my own therapy sessions, interestingly. It came to light in my therapy sessions that my corporate career had very much been about pleasing my parents and my ego self, that part of me that needed to have the certain career, the certain level of income, the house, the car, in order to feel successful. And it's only when you start to look behind that stuff that you can actually start to understand why you feel very unaligned, unfulfilled, a lack of purpose, certainly for me. So back in 2004, I ditched my corporate career and I sold my house and I took redundancy. So I had a pot of money there that I was dedicated to changing my life. My corporate career was killing me. I'd burnt out twice. That's a different story. So I saw the light and I retrained back in 2004. And I opened my practice, and I have run a face-to-face therapeutic practice for the last 19 years. A big passion of mine through my own personal experience has been working with women who struggle with their weight, with the overeating, with emotional eating, with disordered eating. And it's something that has plagued me from, well, my mum put me on my first diet when I was 14. But my disordered, dysfunctional relationship with food started much younger. I have very, very strong memories of being about 6 years old where I would steal food and I would eat secretly and I would hide things. And so I know that my relationship with food and my relationship with my body started when I was very, very young. So I'll start this story back in 1997 where I came out of a very abusive relationship. So I was 27 years old. I'd gone into that relationship 7 years earlier, a size 12 to 14, and I came out of that relationship a size 24. And in those 7 years we were together, there was a lot of physical, emotional, and abuse. And it was no wonder that I came out of that relationship and my self-esteem was on the floor and my weight was at the highest. And I came out of that relationship believing my weight was the issue. And therefore, if weight was the issue, if I lost the weight, that would solve the issue. And so I went on a 5-year quest to lose 8 stone, and I did. And I can remember pulling on my size 10 jeans because that was the size that kind of meant that I was okay and that I was socially acceptable. And I kind of didn't know all of this stuff at the time. But actually what happened when I lost weight, my insecurities were stronger than ever. Men were finding me attractive and I was really struggling with that. I just felt such a huge pressure, to kind of keep that weight off, but also being thrust into a world that felt very, very unsafe. Even though when I was bigger, I didn't like being in that world either. So there felt like there was a real conflict. And that was what took me into therapy for the first time. I was so closed. I was such a closed book. There was, friends kept saying to me, I needed to get some help. But I was so closed down and afraid that if I went in and talked about how I was feeling, I'd be judged. I also worried that, I'd start crying and I'd never stop crying. And to a degree, that kind of did happen a little bit. So I went into therapy, and just through some of the therapy that I had, what I discovered about myself was that my weight had nothing to do with being greedy or lazy or lacking willpower. my weight was an armour. It was like my protection. It meant that in my mind, I'd made the decision that fat was unattractive, and therefore if I stayed fat, I would be unattractive to men. Men wouldn't be chatting me up, men wouldn't be asking me out. Sounds crazy. You know, my conscious mind absolutely wanted to be in a relationship and wanted all of that, but my subconscious, due to experiences I'd had growing up around trust, was very much running the show in terms of one way that it could fully protect me was by creating and maintaining this armour around me, this armour of fat, this armour that kept my innermost core safe and secure and protected. And this kind of started me down the road of really being fascinated about why we struggle sometimes to lose weight. You know, most of the women that I work with are really smart. You know, they get it. They know what they should and shouldn't be eating. But it's kind of like, what is going on for them? What's going on for them at a deeper level? So that was 1997. And sort of my journey since then has been, like I say, I quit my corporate career in 2004. I retrained, I set up my practice. And over the last 10, 15 years, I have been developing If Diets Don't Work, Then What Does? And it's my signature program where I work with women to really start to understand the why. The why is it that they hold extra weight? It's not always about holding extra weight. It's about having disordered patterns of eating around food, but it's also about how you feel in your body and how that is running your life on a day-to-day basis, and how that's having a bigger impact on things like running your business, how you feel about your bodies, and how that influences how you show up in your life. So the way I work and the sort of areas I cover is partly about looking at diet culture, diets and diet culture. You know, I'm not anti-weight loss, but I am anti-diet culture. Just the approaches that often restrictive diets take puts us in battle with our bodies. I'm going to talk more about that as we go through the course of today. Habits form a big part, but also a big part of the work that I do is that emotional attachment that we have to food, and why we turn to food to self-soothe. And a lot of my clients will say to me, you know, I gave up smoking, I gave up drinking, I gave up whatever it is they've given up. Why do I find food so hard? You know, food is the primary one. Not only do we need to eat food to survive, so it already makes it challenging. If you could remember your very first memory, it would be of coming into this world, probably feeling pretty scary, because it's like pretty scary coming out of that nice safe place. And the first memory you would have would be of being held and being comforted by mum. And so that whole early attachment that we have with food and being soothed and being settled, or conversely for some, they maybe didn't get that, so they might have been poorly when they were born and put into an incubator, and so they didn't have that soothing and comforting from mum. So our relationship with food starts from day one of birth, and it's so it gets sculpted as we grow up. You know, we're told what to eat, when to eat. You know, our parents' relationship with food and their bodies is filtering down to us, as well as like their parents, you know, and we're absorbing all of this stuff as children. You know, an excerpt from my own life, you know, my mum struggled to show us love through kisses and cuddles. She did it through food. She also worked full time, so she wasn't around a lot. And as an adult now, I kind of get it, but as a little girl, I felt very, very unloved by my mum. I felt very rejected. I can remember on a Saturday morning, that was my mum's time for cleaning. So she would get up and she'd be busy cleaning, and I was desperate for some of her time and attention. And I can remember like asking her to play a game, and she'd give me the tin of biscuits and she'd put me in front of the telly, and she'd say, go on Hayley, be a good girl, you know, and I'd sit there eating my biscuits as tears were rolling down my face. You know, this is such an important part when I'm working with clients, to help them to realise that they're not lacking in any way, they're not a failure, that the patterns that they've developed around food partly have become habit, but it's also partly to do with how they're living their lives on a day-to-day basis, but also all that historical stuff, you know, the experiences that we had growing up around food, but also around how experiences have led us to make decisions about ourselves that then take us out into the world, and we seek approval. That's the people pleaser in us, or we learn to like suppress what we're thinking and feeling because it's safer to do so. And all of these things, all when we fast forward to the present, all have an intrinsic link to our need to soothe ourselves in different ways, or to use food to push down what we're feeling. So this is my first post for today. I just wanted to come on and say hi and introduce myself and just kind of tell you a little bit about me. You know, I feel very, very grateful for the work that I do. It keeps me thinking about my own journey, and it keeps me always working on my own relationship with myself, but it also gives me an opportunity to help women to let go of this belief that they lack willpower, or they're a failure in some way, and to actually just offer that safe space to come and explore. And you know, when you actually start digging beneath the surface and start to understand what's really going on with our relationship with food and our relationship with our bodies, it's so empowering, and it means you can start making the changes in the right area, rather than keep thinking, is the next diet going to be the one that offers me the solution? Or you've maybe reached a point where the thought of going on another diet is just like soul sapping, basically. And so then you can feel very stuck. You can feel stuck in a body that you may have physical pain, or you may feel it limits you in lots of ways, but you know, unconsciously, every time you try to diet again, there's automatic resistance. And you know, I've been in that place. I've been in that place where I've spent 25 years either on or off a diet. I've also spent times where just the thought of going on another diet is just soul sapping, but equally being in a body that I didn't like, and I felt very, very stuck. So as I do different posts throughout the day, if anything comes up for you and you do have any questions, please feel free to answer them. And maybe at the end of the day, I've got a busy day today, but maybe at the end of the day, I'll pop on and just answer any questions live. So this is my introduction for the Takeover Thursday. Maybe a little bit different to what normally happens, but because I was new in the group, I thought it would just be nice to come and show my face. So if you've got to this 12 and a half minutes, awesome. See you later.